The sense of property is developed by the desire of consumption, perpetuated by the monetary system. Social status is another imagination, and is directly related to the sense of property. People imagine that they climb an imaginary ladder when they buy certain objects, when they finish a certain college, or have a job. It's a fantasy that can only enjoy a system that constantly wants competitive consumers. Remember, no matter that you have 5 cars, houses, expensive watches, gold, money, you're a doctor, lawyer, teacher, mechanic, salesman, all are just imagination. Only that. All are just some extensions of the human being, like technology or information. Technology seen in objects, and information in education. You are a human being who has certain technology, house, car, television, computer, etc., and certain information, school, college, experience, books, teachings, etc. Only that. None of this makes you above another human being, especially in a perfectly unjust system.
When they say all men are created equal, that bothers me. I told you some are thin, some are heavy, some have better eyesight than others. I don't know what that means, but I think they're trying to talk about equal opportunity, and I know that doesn't exist. If you don't have the money to go to college, the word equal opportunities mean nothing.
That's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing, happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank. You know how I describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. The poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class. Keep them showing up at those jobs.
The monetary system has created a race through this social ladder, and it's strange that no one asks what is the ultimate prize, for what is this fight, and what is this race purpose.
Now, my grandmother was a wonderful person. She taught me how to play the game Monopoly. She understood that the name of the game is to acquire. She would accumulate everything she could, and eventually she became the master of the board. And eventually, every time, she would take my last dollar, and I would quit in utter defeat. And then she would always say the same thing to me. She'd look at me and she'd say, "One day, you'll learn to play the game." One summer, I played Monopoly with a neighbor almost every day, all day long. We'd play Monopoly for hours. And that summer, I learned to play the game. I came to understand the only way to win is to make a total commitment to acquisition. I came to understand that money and possessions, that's the way that you keep score. And by the end of that summer, I was more ruthless than my grandmother. I was ready to bend the rules if I had to win that game. And I sat down with her to play that fall. I took everything she had. I destroyed her financially and psychologically. I watched her give her last dollar and quit in utter defeat. And then she had one more thing to teach me. Then she said, "Now it all goes back in the box." All those houses and hotels, all the railroads and utility companies, all that property and all that wonderful money. Now it all goes back in the box. I didn't want it to go back in the box. No, she said, none of it was really yours. You got all heated up about it for a while. But it was around a long time before you sat down at the board. And it will be here after you're gone. Players come and players go. But it all goes back in the box. Houses and cars, titles and clothes, filled barns, bulging portfolios, even your body. Because the fact is that everything I clutch and consume and hoard is going to go back in the box, and I'm going to lose it all. That's not much of an ROI on that. You have to ask yourself, when you finally get the ultimate promotion, when you've made the ultimate purchase, when you buy the ultimate home, when you have stored up financial security and climbed the ladder of success to the highest rung you can possibly climb it, and the thrill wears off, and it will wear off, then what? How far do you have to walk down that road before you see where it leads? Surely you understand, it'll never be enough. So you have to ask yourself the question, what matters?
To remove the social race, you must get rid of the inequality between people, through producing an abundance of goods and services. So, no one would hold anything, but only would use these objects or services. In fact, if there would be abundance, it wouldn't be a need for currency, it won't be necessary, and so there would be fewer jobs. And through education, the people would get rid of the feeling of competition and arrogance. It's really hilarious to see how human beings are their own prisoners through pure imagination. It is also extremely shocking how the human being behaves like a photocopier and, once caught up by the environment, the monetary system, they can hardly analyze and verify it. For an intelligent being to be trapped by technology and information, the tools, it means that you are still unable to represent a form of intelligent life.